Following the horrific tragedy in Tennessee that ended up with 7 dead, including the mass shooter at a Christian school, Tennessee Republicans have basically admitted that we're not really going to do anything about guns or access to these weapons. Now, according to police, the Nashville school shooter illegally bought about 7 firearms within the span of a few recent years. So, in fact, according to Metropolitan Nashville Police Chief John Drake, the 28-year-old suspect had purchased these guns from 5 different gun stores located in Nashville. So, this person has armed themselves quite a bit. Legally, of course, because it's Tennessee. So now, 3 of those guns happen to be used during Monday's massacre, which, of course, one of the guns was the AR-15. The other was an AR-style pistol. I'm going to get into more details about that. And then just a regular pistol. So now, the alleged shooter was a 28-year-old trans man assigned female at birth. And he was able to legally purchase those weapons. So now, there's some details about, and it's not a lot of clear details, but apparently there were some, emotional issues, whatever. Okay, so basically, as a result of that, the parents were like, well, we don't want any weapons in the home. In fact, the alleged shooter had one weapon that they knew of, and the parents said, well, you got to get rid of it. And then, of course, behind the parents' back, the alleged shooter went and bought up a bunch of weapons because he was able to. Drake said investigators spoke to the shooter's parents, who revealed that their child was under a doctor's care for an undisclosed emotional disorder. The parents shared with investigators that previously voiced concern about their child owning firearms due to the condition, and told police that they knew the shooter had purchased and sold one weapon, but were not aware of the shooter had been hiding several more at home. More than just several. There's a lot. A lot. Drake also added that Tennessee does not have a red flag law, so police did not have the power to take, of course, the weapons away. And by the way, the definition of a red flag law basically allows a concerned person or people to make an appeal to a court to temporarily, that's the key, temporarily restrict someone's ability to purchase or own a firearm when there is a concern for their own safety or the safety of others. We find out, of course, that it was part of the plan from the shooter to target other places and possibly other family members as well. So now look, the shooter had weapons hidden at home, brought 3 of them with him. One of them was an AR-style pistol called a Kel-Tec Sub 2000. Turns out, pretty popular. Not quite as popular or well-known as the AR-15, but again, pretty popular. Now, this was actually a type of rifle known as a pistol caliber carbine because it fires the same types of ammunition as a 9mm or 40 caliber handgun. Okay, so now what made this even more deadly in this case was the fact that this was equipped with an accessory called a stabilizing brace, which basically enables firing from the shoulder like a rifle, or for the gun to be strapped to the shooter's forearm, which again, also, since it folds up, can help conceal the weapon. Although I guess in Tennessee, it doesn't really matter because it will allow you to carry any sorts of weapons, just about. But also it does help with accuracy in firing because, shoulder, more accuracy. Okay, so now, that said, under new regulations announced in January by the ATF, such weapons would be considered, are now considered, short-barreled rifles which do require federal registration. Okay, so the thing is, the shooter went and legally purchased these weapons and had them registered. So now, had there been a red flag law, a court order would have revealed the full stock of weapons in their possession for police to be able to confiscate, leaving them, of course, with no weapons in the home. But again, we didn't have that. Not only are there no red flag laws in Tennessee, but also there's just very loose gun laws in general. In fact, Tennessee Governor Bill Lee had in recent years expanded gun rights in the state. In fact, in 2021, Lee signed a bill that would allow people to openly carry handguns without any sort of permit. That was their number one priority, by the way. Number one. It's like, all right, Governor, hey, look, we got control. We're in the great state of Tennessee, and we have got control of the government. What is our first priority? Oh, I don't know. We could maybe deal with some of the poverty, impoverished citizens. We could maybe help out some of our schools. Oh, no. Well, here's what we're going to do. More guns. Oh, yeah. We're going to loosen them gun laws. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. And here's how they did it. The bill, signed by Governor Lee, allows people 21 and older to carry handguns openly or concealed without permits, and allows the same for members of the military between the ages of 18 and 20. Last month, Tennessee Republicans decided that didn't go far enough. We're going to loosen them more. They pushed to allow 18 and 19-year-old residents to carry handguns without permits, and a House version of that same bill expands it even further to include basically any firearm. Not just a handgun, so, open carry of rifles, shotguns, handguns, no permits, no training. Oh, you got a gun? Here you go. Just carry it around. It's not even like OK Corral because they had gun control there. No, it's just basically people walking around as if they're warlords. As if that's going to help the situation. Well, I got news for you. It did not. In fact, the result is that as of 2020, Tennessee was among the top 10 deadliest states in the country from firearms. Oops. It's almost as if more guns equal more gun deaths. I mean, look, here's the thing about Tennessee, right? So when you're talking about gun deaths per capita, right? And a lot of conservatives want to point to the big cities, Detroit, New York, Chicago. It's like on a bingo card. Chicago. They always point that out, right? So these are places that generally have pretty high populations, especially when you look at California. It's a gigantic population. But here's the thing, right? You have, and by the way, Nashville, fairly large population, but certainly not on the scale of Chicago. But Tennessee is one of the 10 most dangerous states in the country when it comes to gun violence. Doesn't that say something? I mean, generally, yes, when you have more people in a more concentrated area, and then you do introduce guns, and even when you do have gun control measures in the city, that doesn't prevent outside guns from coming in, from being smuggled illegally into the city. And so that's why having all these localities that have strict gun control, while everywhere else is very, very loose gun control, doesn't exactly work very well. That's why there needs to be more of a standardized laws, but we're never going to have that. That's why it's less effective. Not saying it's not effective to have gun control laws in the cities, but again, when you have so many people in one area and you do introduce guns in those areas, and there are areas where there is gangs, there is crime, etc., in these bigger cities, especially in incredibly disadvantaged areas, yes, you're going to have higher rates of gun crime because there's just more people packed in those areas. But what we're seeing in places like Tennessee, though, is you have very high rates of gun violence and deaths in places where there's not as many people as in the big cities. And again, that's got to tell you something here, that maybe gun laws do have something to do with this, with the high rates of gun violence. But they'll never admit it, unfortunately. But look, the right also does argue that, oh man, look, we'd like to do something, about these people with the guns, but they're criminals, and since they're already criminals, and since murder's already illegal, what can we do? I can't do nothing. They're gonna crime anyway. Okay, but nobody's arguing that criminals won't do crimes. The thing that we're arguing for is to make sure that it is a little bit more difficult for criminals to get their hands on high-powered weaponry. Now, does that mean that the average gun owner might have to wait a little bit longer to get their gun? Yeah. I think most people are willing to wait a little bit longer, or to go through a more comprehensive background check. Yes, it's a little bit more annoying, but if taking those extra steps ensures that someone who shouldn't have a gun doesn't get one, or it makes it a lot harder for them to get a legal gun, or, they can't get a legal gun at all, well, I mean, that would be better, I would think. But look, that said, I know that there's no magic law that's going to eliminate all gun crimes, and I'm not saying that there is or will be. And of course, we know that we're not going to eliminate all mass shootings. That's not the goal here. The goal is to minimize these incidences. That's it. And look, what Republicans are doing right now, politicians, they're just making it easier by flooding their states with legal guns, making it so that anybody can get a gun pretty much at any time. And look, it's not a surprise that when they loosen gun laws and make more types of guns legal and make it legal for more and more people to carry, you're going to have more incidences where people will purchase guns legally and then use them for illegal acts. In more than 3/4 of the mass shootings that have occurred from 1966 to 2019, perpetrators legally purchased at least one of their weapons, according to data from the National Institute of Justice. So it's not even like legal versus, illegal. Because you're not really a criminal until you do a criminal act. So, you could be planning a criminal act, but who's going to know until you do it? And I would think a lot of the time, the determining factor in whether or not these people are able to commit that crime is to how easy they'll be able to do it and to get the weapons for it. And again, if you allow very, very easy access to some of these very high-powered weapons, well, I mean, what do you think is going to happen? Look, I think the assault weapons ban, had it been still into place, would have stopped this particular shooter from at least obtaining 2 out of the 3 weapons that he had used, which I think might have mitigated some of the deaths. Might have made it so that there were less victims. I don't know for sure, but I can speculate. But here's the thing, though, right? Republican politicians refuse to sign on to assault weapons bans because they say it's absolutely not going to work. But here's the thing. When it comes to banning stuff, it's perfectly fine in just about every other case except for guns. I mean, for example, Governor Lee recently signed a ban on drag performances. Drag. Not only that, but Tennessee has gone after same-sex marriage licenses, interfaith and interracial marriage licenses as well, allowing those to be denied, banning trans women from playing sports or using a bathroom that matches their gender identity. They're cool with handing out bans on that. Now they say, oh, you know what? No, we need these bans. You see, they actually do work, because if we ban the drag, we're going to protect the families. We're going to protect the children from the dangers of the gender ideologies. And see, that's what we have to do. That's our main thing. We got to protect people against
The wokers.
the woke ideologies. That's it. Wait, but woke ideology is not killing children. The real danger here to the children is gun violence. It's literally killing them, leaving them with literal, bullet holes in their bodies. That's not happening at drag shows. Gender affirming care is not killing children. In fact, when it comes to children's lives, trans children are saved by having access to gender affirming care. Probably gonna say ban that. No, look, it's the guns. I think it's pretty obvious, right? And look, you don't have to eliminate the entire Second Amendment in order to reduce the amount of senseless gun deaths in this country. What we need to do is we just have to be smart. We have to look at the data, and it's very clear, and use that data to pass meaningful, sensible gun laws in this country, and then enforce them. That's it. It's the least we can do.